As we proceed to enhance our relationship together as one, I was thinking about relationship, how we relate to one another in a relationship as a couple, friends, or even in leadership. Communication, how does it ensure effective information to create an understanding? In our race, as we push for where we could have joy, happiness, and progress, because this is what the core of this program we always do all the time, how do we communicate? How do we make our communication effective to one another? I was just thinking about it lately because I realized that, as the day go by, and especially for our race, we like to excel individually. Everybody likes to do his or her own thing. We don't really come together to achieve even more, all right? Which is one of the principles, right? So as our race is concerned, I'm like, okay, how do we really make communication effective so that we can show empathy? I was with a group of friends the other day and a conversation cropped up. When a partner cheats, which one is more painful? Is it the male, your husband, or the female or the wife? Which one is more painful? He heated up. Okay. And it brought a lot of emotions, and the people were, talking, and I was listening, and I realized that, at this time it was among couples. There were some things the women said, some things the men said. Now, coming from a neutral point, I'm like, they all have reasons, right? And they were viewing out what has been in their mind. So I'm thinking, okay, it means we as couple, we don't really communicate that much. Or even if we do, we don't exhaust what's in our mind to each other so we can create an understanding. Now, it takes a lot for this to happen, all right? If you are the autocratic kind of man in a relationship, everything that you say goes, there won't be an effective communication, right? The woman is just there as, some men will say they end up in the kitchen and the bedroom, which to me doesn't make a lot of sense these days. Or are you the democratic type? Where you want to discuss issues, with your spouse all the time for effective communication and understanding, all right? Or you are the type that you are rather here nor there. I mean, you guys don't really talk. You only talk when you want to, and you don't exhaust what's in your mind that is really core, in a relationship. So there's a lot to it. For an effective communication to take place, you need to have an open dialogue, so to say, with your spouse. And even in leadership, you need to have the ability to have an open mind so that you can absorb what people think. How do you make your communication as effective to create a change? So it could be in family, it could be in leadership, or what have you. So those are the things I thought I should just share this with you guys. What do you think? You can, of course, subscribe, share, and, drop some comments. Communication, just check yourself before, as they say, before we wreck ourselves, if you are not doing that already. What are we doing, SEF? Okay? For communication to be effective, we need to have, with your spouse, all right, especially, an open mind dialogue. For the most part, you are sincere to one another. And when that happens, you can share your good, your bad, the ugly to your best partner, all right? To your best friend, as the case may be. And that will bring out empathy and a better understanding of where you're coming from and how to resolve the issues. Because a lot of us don't really do it. I'm sure, tell me if I'm wrong, a lot of us don't really go out of our way to empathize, to show empathy. And the only way you can do that is when you relate, you try to listen and understand where the next person is coming from. It's key to a relationship. Do we actually do that? You can say, you go for parties together, you go for dinner together. Yeah, you can always do that and everything, but your mind might not be there, depending on how bad the communication has over time, been happening. So there was, even in leadership, there's this senator that, left Nigeria and came to for maybe business or whatever in America. Now when it got to where they were going to take her luggage and all of that, she was like, this is not very organized. They're not very organized here. Very sarcastic view from somebody that's coming from Nigeria. How do you explain that? That in America here, when it comes to luggage and all of that, packing luggage and all, I'm like, oh really? Where you're coming from? You don't even have light in the airport. International airport. So in that case, that is someone that you can tell over time, when she was still a senator or in power, she could not really have empathy for people that she is serving, all right? Because her way of thinking is different, and she couldn't leave her comfort zone to go and check those that actually need help, so to speak, or how she can actually improve the life of other people. Because, for instance, at the airport, she doesn't suffer with normal people where they check in and all of that. There's no AC working. She doesn't go there. I mean, it's first class and everything is yes ma, and they do everything for her. She doesn't, so she can't really relate to what other people are. That's why you see a lot of things not really happening, because they don't go through that. And it's even worse when somebody that came from that zone of nothing and saw him or herself in a very good place, maybe in leadership or whatever, they just forget about where they came from. The communication is lost. There's no effect. They don't care anymore. So it's even worse at that point. But I'm even saying, even if he or she hasn't come up from that place, they can't relate, because their way of life is very different from the normal person. Even though they know, but because they cannot come down and say, okay, let me even go to that airport. Let me even experience what they're experiencing. And by the time somebody that really wants to, have an effective communication goes there and sees that, wow, people are really suffering. Maybe someone in leadership are like, wow, I didn't know it was this bad. Okay. So that's just an example to show how, if you really want to make a communication effective, you have to be able to leave your comfort zone, go to where the issue is or the issues are, and review it, and you will be able to have a better understanding of what the issues are, so that by the time you communicate or say anything from your mouth, everybody can relate with you, you can relate with them, and solutions come into place. And that also is the same thing when it comes to couples. When you are home and you have a very good rapport with your spouse, I'm telling you, there are so many issues that we watch for, go for counseling for, that you can resolve yourself. Just to have a decent communication and respect your spouse. Listen to him or her. Try to understand where he or she is coming from. Then you guys discuss, you don't necessarily have to argue, even if you have to. Constructive arguments, okay? And you bring out solutions, because now you can relate to it and say, oh my dear, is this how you've been saying it? This is how I saw it, and all of that. But when those things are not in place, trust me, there will always going to be a round and round, over and over, same issue, until, you make a change about it. So communication is one, but effective communication is the ultimate. And that only can happen, like I said, when you relate with that person, you leave your comfort zone and be able to understand. I was listening to American history about slavery and everything. The white folks couldn't relate to what the black folks were going through, because that's not their life. There's nothing he, as a white person, can really say to justify what the black folks are going through. So for any other race apart from black, maybe white, Hispanic, whatever, if they really want to relate to what the black folks are, you have to go and read about it. You have to relate with those people that are already that experienced it, so you can now have a different mindset. Because if you don't do that, there can be an effective communication. It's not going to happen. The same thing with rich man and a poor man, right? When you're rich, you seem to have, like you are in heaven. Okay? If you want to relate and see what you can do to those that are not as rich, or maybe they want to be rich like you have to leave your comfort zone, okay, and go and experience what they experience in terms of where they're living, what the problems are, and all of that. Then you are like, oh, this is how bad it is. I didn't know. Then for someone that wants to show empathy, you can do that and, do whatever you want to do to make the life of those people better. I think that is part of a major issue that has to do with our race, okay, regardless of religion, okay. I don't want us to talk about religion. I'm talking to us as humans, what we can do to one another to actually have a better way of life without necessarily thinking differently, all right, about issues that are supposed to be, something you can actually make it work for everyone, rather than just doing your thing yourself. Remember what I said the other, when we started this, I said, most times our race, we like to do things solo. It's contrary to the principles. We like to achieve things. Look at, there's nowhere in this world you won't find in Nigeria, for instance, and they excel. They excel crazily, but individually. All right, we achieve a lot when we do things individually, which is okay, but we can achieve a little bit more when we do things together. It has to start with us, to show empathy to others, to see what we can do to make other lives better. When they say it takes a community to raise a child, is that what is still really happening these days? It used to happen before though, but now there's even no community, so to speak. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but you know where I'm coming from, okay? Because everybody's just like, well, how am I going to survive? What am I going to do? I. Remember in the Bible, Christ said, let us. That doesn't mean Bruno have done it himself, which is what we do now, doing it solo. But he said, let us, which means with us coming together, we can do even more. Okay? So I just should drop that today, guys. Communication is one, yes, but effective communication is the ultimate. When there is a better understanding between one another, I bet you we achieve even more. All right, guys? Always remember, do unto others what you want others to do for you. Talk to you soon, folks. Have a great day.